Huzur, prophets like Krishna are not mentioned by name in the Holy Quran. So under what authority do we believe they are prophethood?
He says that prophets like Krishna are not mentioned in the Holy Quran by name. So under what authority do we believe them to be prophets?
What do you think, how many prophets came in the world according to traditions? Do you know? 120,000? 24,000. 124,000. So if Quran mentioned all of them, it could just mention their names. It should have mentioned also some history where they appeared. So how big would the book Quran in that case? Can you realize? The Fatain would be as large as from that wall to this wall, or even larger. So Allah is wise. Allah knows that it is impossible to mention all the other prophets of the world of all times by name and to tell their history as well. So Allah has very wisely chosen 25 prophets which are mentioned in the Quran, and they are chosen as such that their history applies to all of the prophets. Whatever happened to them, that happened to other prophets of Allah as well. So this is with the special grace of Allah that He has not mentioned all the names and their history of the older prophets. But in principle, Allah has said, as I have mentioned repeatedly before, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن من أمة إلا خلا فيها نذير. So if you do not believe in prophets of other nations at all, then where are they? Where have they gone? So it is impossible. If the Quran is right, then the original what should I say, those who were revealed originally from Allah, Wahi, and who were made prophets, they must have been hidden by the mist of centuries from their time onwards, until their teachings were converted entirely to idolatry, idolism, etc., etc. The best proof I have given before many times of this fact, Khana Kaaba was built by one of the greatest muwahhideen after Rasulullah sallam, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And what was the condition of Khana Kaaba at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It was filled by idols according to the number of days of a year. There were as many idols. Could anybody looking at it understand that the Prophet who rebuilt this place was a worshipper of unity of Allah and a very great, one of the greatest worshippers of unity of Allah? Could anyone believe? So this is why when you go to India, for instance, and see their temples, they are filled with so many imaginary idols of deities. Nobody can believe that the founder of their religion was a perfect believer in the unity of Allah. So when you read the history of Hazrat Krishna alayhi salatu wasalam, then you most certainly draw the conclusion that he has to be from Allah. I have read his history very closely, and I'm sure that he was one of the greatest prophets born in India. like Ram Chandra also. He was also a great prophet born in India before Krishna. Which particularly applies to the question of Hazrat Krishna alayhi salam being a prophet of Allah. There is a tradition of Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam which says, "Kana fil hinde nabiyun asfadul lawne ismuhu kahan." In India there was a prophet of Allah, dark in color, and his name was Kahan. And people forget that Hazrat Krishna is called Krishna Kanhaiya. So Kahan and Kanhaiya are in fact the same word, slightly changed in order. So all the description of Hazrat Krishna is given. If not Hazrat Krishna, who else is the recipient of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's blessing as his tasdeeq? So I'm 100% sure that Hazrat Krishna alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah, as mentioned by Hazrat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.